That ping from DoorDash hit while I was half asleep in a Marriott 2 time zones away. The kind of dead sleep you fall into after back-to-back client demos and airport pretzels for dinner. I'd scheduled the drop-off from me because Emily always forgot to eat when she was doom-scrolling TikTok, and surprising her with sushi usually bought me Boyfriend of the Year points. The notification banner slid down, casual as anything. Your order has been delivered. Under it, the selfie, courier dude grinning with the branded bag, except the real headline was the background. My kitchen. My stupid, yellow bar stools. And Emily, in an oversized hoodie that wasn't mine, arms wrapped around a guy I'd never seen before. The kind of hug where hips forget they're supposed to lie. For a second, my brain tried to label it as a glitchy portrait mode blur, or some weird reflection off the microwave. Then the courier's caption knocked the wind out of me. Dropped it off. They seemed stoked. They, not she. The interstate hum outside the hotel window suddenly sounded like a laugh track. I pinched the photo open, tried to zoom past DoorDash's compression, hunting pixels like they were alibis. Emily's hair up in that messy bun she reserves for Sundays. A tattoo on his forearm, script letters, maybe stay wild or stay true. The timestamp in the corner matched the delivery ETA. My stomach did that cold elevator drop, the one you feel right before doors open to a floor you don't recognize. I called her, straight to voicemail, texted food's there, enjoy. 3 dots, then thank you, that was so sweet. I stared at the photo again, thumb shaking. I sent it back, who's behind you? Pause. Lol, that's our neighbor Brandon, he borrowed sugar. Filter is making it look weird. You're spiraling again. Spiraling. Like I'd hallucinated a whole man. I felt the urge to laugh, but the kind where you know you'll sob right after. I screenshotted everything and opened DoorDash support, fingers moving on muscle memory from 1,000 customer service chats about cold fries. Hey, could I get the original file the driver uploaded? Need it for a delivery complaint. Polite. Non-accusatory. Meanwhile, I pulled up our Ring camera app. Offline. Camera disconnected. Interesting timing. DoorDash support's bot tried to placate me with coupons until I typed representative like a magic spell. A human named Maya S. jumped in, apologizing for the inconvenience. I explained, careful not to sound like a jealous psycho, that the driver's photo showed an unexpected person and I needed the original for clarity. She said company policy restricted sharing high-res media unless there was a safety concern. So I wrote, there might be an unauthorized person in my home. I'm away on business. It wasn't a lie. Unauthorized is unauthorized when you haven't issued a key. She escalated. While I waited, I scrolled through our shared Apple calendar. Emily had blocked off the night with Self-Care's Netflix. I pictured Self-Care wearing a graphic tee and calling himself Brandon. Finally, Maya dropped a secure link. Original upload, full EXIF data. The second it opened, I forgot to breathe. The Geotag put it at my address to the centimeter. Timestamp 7:42 p.m., matching the push. ISO, aperture, even the phone model the driver used, some Android with a name like a spaceship. And in the uncropped frame, you could see Emily's hand on the guy's chest, fingers curled, her ring catching the under-cabinet lights I installed last winter. No neighbor brings over sugar and gets both arms wrapped around him like that. I downloaded everything, backed it up to iCloud, Google Drive, a thumb drive I'd tossed in my briefcase next to a crumpled tie. Then I texted Emily, rings offline. She fired back fast. Storm messed with Wi-Fi earlier. Chill. There hadn't been a storm. I checked the weather like an alibi accountant. I didn't answer. Instead, I called Nate, my best friend since freshman year at Ohio State, the guy who dragged me out of a breakup cave once already. He didn't say I told you so. He just said, what's the move? I looked at the hotel mirror. Puffy eyes, a shirt with conference creases. The move was to stop being passive in my own life. I land Friday. Her parents are coming over Saturday for dinner. I think I'll let technology talk. Nate whistled. Dude, savage. Not savage. Just evidence. Meanwhile, Emily kept sending little lifeline texts, memes, a random selfie with our cat, Pepper, who looked like she'd been drafted into witness protection. Pepper's pupils were dinner plates. Cats always know. I answered minimally, like threading a needle in a hurricane. I booked an earlier flight, paid the change fee nobody ever wants to pay, and on the plane home, I kept rehearsing not the confrontation, but the calm. Rage would give her oxygen. Facts would vacuum seal the room. Landing felt like stepping onto a stage where the script was printed on my phone screen. Saturday evening arrived fast, like time was sprinting just to see me trip. Emily had suggested her parents swing by to finally see the backsplash I installed. The irony of them admiring tile while their daughter's moral grout cracked was bitterly poetic. I spent the afternoon on prep, exported the DoorDash photo to a USB, pulled the EXIF into a clean PDF with arrows highlighting the geotag, timestamp, and the words, "They seemed stoked." Printed copies for anyone who'd claim I photoshopped it. I even tested the TV to make sure the slideshow would autoplay without that awkward buffering spin. When Emily came home from Target, she gave me a kiss on the cheek that felt like a forgery. I let it land. We chopped veggies together, her humming some Taylor Swift chorus about karma, me setting the USB on the media console like a loaded question. Her parents, Linda and Gary, walked in at 6 sharp with a store-bought pie and Midwestern enthusiasm. Small talk sparkled. Gary asked about my trip. I said it was productive. Linda loved the new curtains. Emily beamed like she'd hung them straight herself. We sat, passed salad, made jokes about Pepper's eternal shedding. My heart rate never slowed, just found a steady, dangerous drum. At a lull, I said, "Hey, I wanted to show you all something cool DoorDash did. Kinda techie, Gary. You'll dig it." I grabbed the remote, hit input, and the TV switched from ESPN pregame to the captured grin of a stranger courier and the unmistakable silhouette of Emily clinging to Brandon in our kitchen. Silence detonated. Emily's fork clinked against her plate. Linda blinked like her contacts had dried out. Gary leaned forward, a hand to his knee, squinting. I stepped closer, clicked to the next slide. Metadata, cleanly boxed and labeled. "This is the original file the driver uploaded," I said, voice steady like it belonged to a lawyer commercial. "Time, date, location. That's our kitchen. That's Emily. That's not me." Emily launched into scramble mode, grabbing for the remote. "Jake, what the hell? This is insane. Brandon's our neighbor, I told you. Our neighbor has a wife and a Labrador," I cut in. "This guy has a tattoo that says stay true, which is funny actually." I clicked again, zoomed crop of the forearm. Gary saw it and went pale. Emily's eyes darted to her mom, then to me. We were hugging because he was upset. His girlfriend dumped him. Linda whispered, Just that, a whole sermon." I wrote DoorDash support for the high res I added almost conversational. They were incredibly helpful. Honestly, 5 stars for customer service. A laugh escaped Nate, who had slotted himself on FaceTime on my laptop near the TV, silent backup. Emily noticed him and scoffed, "You brought Nate into this?" Like that was the betrayal. I moved past her, opened the hall closet, and pulled out the duffel I'd packed with her essentials. Clothes, toiletries, the framed photos I couldn't stand to look at anymore. I set it by the door. "Your toothbrush is in the side pocket," I said. "I emailed the metadata to my attorney this afternoon. We can talk through logistics when you're ready, but tonight's not for that." Gary stood, then sat, then stood again. "I think we should give you 2 space," he muttered, but I shook my head. "No, you raised her. You deserve the same truth I do." Emily's face crumpled for a second, then hardened like she found a script of her own. "So what, you're just done? Over a picture?" I gestured at the TV, still frozen on her arms around Tattoo Guy. "Over a pattern. This is just the only time technology decided to CC me." Pepper wove between our legs, tail twitching. The only living thing in the room, without a side to pick. Emily grabbed the duffel, her keys clattering to the floor as she fumbled. Linda followed her to the door, soft pleas swallowed by the hallway. Gary stayed, hand on my shoulder, awkward and paternal all at once. "Son," he said, voice hoarse, I'm sorry." I nodded because there was nothing else to do with that apology except let it land. When the door shut, the TV screen went black on its own like it knew the show was over. I exhaled for what felt like the first time in days, thanked Maya from DoorDash in my head, and texted my lawyer. "You'll have everything in your inbox. Let's talk Monday." Then I sat on the floor with Pepper, who headbutted my knee like, "Finally, dude." And for the first time that week, I laughed without wanting to cry 5 seconds later. When the door finally clicked shut behind Emily and Linda, the apartment exhaled like it had been holding its breath longer than I had. Gary lingered a second, gave my shoulder one of those dad pats that says, "I don't know what to do with my hands," and left too. pie forgotten on the counter like evidence from a happier crime scene. The TV screen timed out to that floating logo. Pepper batted at it from the coffee table, and I just sat cross-legged on the rug, phone buzzing in spasms, texts stacking from unknown numbers, Emily's friends. From Emily herself, we need to talk. From Nate, legendary, you okay? I typed back to Nate, define okay. He thumbs-upped it because there's not really a Hallmark sticker pack for congrats on detonating your relationship with metadata. Sleep, when it finally came, was thin and full of rewind buttons. I woke up at 4:17 a.m. to Pepper purring on my chest and the glow of my phone illuminating the ceiling fan like a bad interrogation light. Emily had sent a wall of gray bubbles. Everything from, you embarrassed me in front of my parents, to you seriously violated privacy getting that photo, to, if you cared, you'd have asked me calmly. The irony of being accused of violating privacy by the person who turned our kitchen into a co-working space for infidelity wasn't lost on me. I scrolled past the guilt bombs and saw one text that snagged me. A Venmo request from someone named Zach T. $18.65 with the note, DoorDash, tip, lol. She'd accidentally sent it to me instead of him. Or he fat-fingered my @. Either way, the universe keeps receipts if you let it. My lawyer, Alison Chu, answered my 6:30 a.m. email at 7:05 like she doesn't believe in weekends. She laid it out clinically. Since Emily and I weren't married, this was more about disentangling the lease, shared purchases, and the tiny nest egg we'd combined when we thought joint savings was romantic. Document everything, she wrote. Stay calm. Do not engage in hostile communication. I read it twice, trying to convert outrage into bullet points. I started a notes app file, assets to divide, the couch, the TV, Pepper, no, Pepper stays with me, subscriptions to split, keys, fobs to retrieve. There's a special kind of heartbreak in itemizing a life together like an estate sale. Around noon, a DM popped up on Instagram from a handle I didn't recognize, @camdan. The profile pic was the same grin from the delivery selfie, baseball cap and all. Hey man, saw your review, just wanted to check in. Everything okay? I didn't mean to cause drama. My review had been 5 stars. Photo clarity, chef's kiss, with a tip that made my Amex wince. Guilt money for dragging him into soap opera land. I wrote back, not your fault at all. But quick question, you remember if that guy was already there when you got to the door? He replied with a voice memo, the audio fuzzy but earnest. Dude, he answered the door first. She came up behind him and kinda hung on him? I thought y'all were a party. Anyway, hope you're good. He was unknowingly the star witness I didn't know I needed. I saved the memo to the same folder as the EXIF dump. By 2, I'd pulled the smart lock logs off the August app. Friday evening, an unlock from a guest key I didn't know existed, at 6:12 p.m. Emily had created it 3 weeks ago, labeled cleaner. We don't have a cleaner. The digital breadcrumb trail kept getting denser. Uber trip receipts in our shared email where she dropped off Brandon, or Zach, or Stay True tattoo at an address across town. Apple TV watch history showing a string of reality dating shows I can tolerate only under duress. All started at the exact times I'd been in Zoom meetings from hotel conference rooms. Every time I found a new log, a part of me wanted to vomit. The other part felt like a detective on a case I'd never wanted, but was suddenly hyperqualified to solve. Late afternoon, someone knocked. I checked the peephole, half expecting Tattoo Forearm to be lolling there with some half-baked excuse. But it was Linda clutching a Tupperware like the Midwest mom she is. I opened the door, and she stared past me, eyes landing on the unplugged ring, the duffel-shaped absence by the wall. She's at my place, she said before I could speak. She's not really talking, just wanted to let you know she'll come by tomorrow for the rest of her things. Her voice was sandpaper over glass. I nodded, unsure whether to offer a hug, a chair, or a subpoena. She set the Tupperware on the entry table. Chicken casserole. I figured, well, you probably won't cook. She attempted a smile. It failed. We didn't raise her to lie like that. The last word cracked. I didn't have a script, so I just said, thank you, because gratitude is safe and casseroles are currency in crises. That night, I found the spare key she'd taped under the ceramic succulent on the patio. The same place I'd joked once was the worst hiding spot ever. Turns out obvious works when the target trusts you. I texted Alison, found extra key, taking photo, putting with her stuff. She sent back a thumbs-up emoji, her version of a gold star. Nate came over with cheap beer and expensive empathy. We sat on milk crates because the kitchen chairs were suddenly on the asset list, and he listened while I spiraled and unspiraled. Was I boring? Did I ignore red flags because I liked our Spotify duo playlists too much? Was Pepper secretly Team Emily? He reminded me that cheating isn't a Yelp review on a partner's performance. It's a choice to lie. We played Mario Kart until 1 a.m. because sometimes your brain just needs to focus on banana peels. The next morning, Emily texted, "I'll be there at 10. Please don't be dramatic." Dramatic is the word cheaters use when they mean don't hold me accountable. I replied, "Your things are boxed by the door. I'll be here. Nate will be here too. Bringing a witness isn't dramatic, it's wise." At 10:07 she walked in, sunglasses on indoors like a hungover celebrity. Behind her, a guy hovered. Not tattoo guy. Skinnier, nervous, a hoodie pulled up despite July heat. "This is Brandon," she said, like the universe owed her consistency points. "We actually do live across the hall from each other sometimes." He mumbled a hi. I didn't shake his hand. "Nice to meet the sugar borrower," I said. He blinked, confused, so Emily shot him a look that said, "Don't ask." She stuffed the duffel into an IKEA bag, grabbed a stack of our Polaroids without looking at them, and when she reached for Pepper's carrier I stepped between. "No, she's mine. She's ours." She shot back. Nate coughed. I pulled up the vet records on my phone. My name is primary, my card on file, her name nowhere. "Pepper chose me when she hid under my bed the first week you moved in," I added, softer. The carrier stayed put. Emily sighed like losing the cat was the real injustice here, then stormed into the bathroom to get her makeup bag. Brandon lingered awkwardly. Finally he blurted, "For what it's worth, man, she told me you were on a break." I almost laughed. "We were as on a break as friends was realistic," he shrugged. "She said you monitored her phone." Gaslighting really is a full-time job. I monitored my bank account, and I installed the lights she cheated under. He went red. "Look, this is a lot." "It is," I agreed, "but you can leave." "I can't. This is my kitchen." He shuffled back to the door like a scolded intern. Emily reemerged, grabbed her tote, and paused. For a second, her mouth trembled. And I almost saw the girl I'd cooked pancakes for at 2 a.m., the one who cried at Pixar movies. Then she steeled. "You're going to regret making this a spectacle," she said. I gestured to the silent TV. Only spectacle was Thursday night, M. She left without slamming, which somehow hurt more. By lunchtime, the apartment felt lighter and emptier. I tossed the casserole in the oven because grief eats even when you don't want to. Pepper prowled room to room like she was confirming the ghost was gone. Nate helped me drag the mattress to the curb, my call, not hers, because sleeping on a bed shared with lies is like camping on quicksand. That evening, Alison called to run through next steps if Emily decided to fight for anything ridiculous. "Document, document, document," she repeated, and I pictured her in a cape with the letter D. She advised me to screenshot and archive all messages, even the manipulative ones, for pattern. I made a folder labeled Emily Comms and filled it like a terrified archivist. 2 days later, a woman named Hannah messaged me on Facebook. "Hey, this is weird, but are you the Jake from 5B? I think we need to talk about someone named Zach." Turns out Tattoo Guy actually had a girlfriend, and she'd gone full FBI on his phone, found Emily's name, found my review, because I'd tagged DoorDash in a sarcastic story, and connected dots. We met at a coffee shop on 3rd Street, public enough to feel safe, caffeinated enough to keep us from crying into muffins. She slid her phone over, screenshots of Emily and Zach's thread, my name referenced. My schedule mapped. "He said you and Emily were basically roommates," Hannah said, rolling her eyes so hard they almost checked out. "He also said he was emotionally single." We compared timelines like detectives with red string. Her proof filled in blanks mine missed. Hotel nights they planned around my returns. Spotify playlists they shared titled Midnight Snacks. Photos in my living room I hadn't seen because she cropped out Pepper's tail on the rug. It was all weirdly validating. Painful but validating to realize the betrayal had been a team project. At the end, Hannah and I half laughed, half sighed. "What now?" she asked. "Therapy, probably," I said. "And changing our DoorDash passwords." The revenge urge simmered. Post the photo to r/ami the a-hole. Let the internet burn her. CC her boss. Print flyers. But Alison's voice echoed, "Hostile communication helps no one but drama." So I channeled the energy into spreadsheets. I closed our joint credit card, changed the Hulu password, took my name off her car insurance. I donated the hoodie she'd borrowed from some ex before me because I refused to be a museum for ex-men's cotton. I sent Maya from DoorDash a thank you email that probably sounded like a love letter to corporate policy. She replied with a canned, "We're glad we could help," but I imagine she screenshotted my saga for the break room. Late one night, the Ring camera pinged back online, new Wi-Fi, new password. The first clip it captured was me, bleary-eyed, taking out trash at 1 a.m., but the second was a shadowy figure trying the door handle at 3:12. Hoodie up, same build as Brandon. The lock held. The guest key had been revoked. I forwarded the clip to Alison and to building security. The next morning, our building manager, Theo, knocked. "Just wanted to confirm you changed access permissions," he said. "Also, you're kind of a legend on our staff Slack." I raised an eyebrow. "Your DoorDash slideshow?" Mary from 12C said it was like an episode of Dateline, but with the better lighting. I grimaced. "Please keep that inside the Slack," he grinned. "We will. Also, if you need a contractor for repainting, fresh start and all, I know a guy." I started doing small reclaiming rituals. Rehung the art we picked together, but moved it to new walls. Bought sheets that didn't remind me of Netflix marathons with someone who was probably texting Zach under the blanket. Switched the kitchen bulbs to warmer tones because the cool white felt like an interrogation room. I took Pepper to the vet for a checkup. The doc said she was stressed but healthy. I told Pepper, in the drive-thru at Starbucks like a lunatic, that we were going to be okay. She meowed back like she had notes on my delivery. On Friday, exactly a week after the DoorDash revelation, Gary texted, his first direct message to me ever, asking if I wanted to grab a beer. We sat at O'Malley's, the dive bar with trivia nights we dragged him to once, and he apologized again, this time with tears he didn't hide. I should have, I don't know, seen it, said something when she lied as a kid. We let her wriggle out of consequences. I shook my head. "This isn't on you. She's an adult making adult mistakes." He stared into his lager. "Still feels like I gave her the toolkit." I told him about therapy, about Alison's D-word mantra, about Maya the DoorDash angel. We parted with an awkward hug that felt like closure. Not for me and Emily, but for me and the fantasy of a family I thought I was joining. I mailed Emily a final envelope, printed copies of the smart lock log, the vet records, the spreadsheet of divided bills, a polite cover letter written in lawyerese, "Please acknowledge receipt," that Alison had polished. No snark. No P.S. Hope Zach's tattoo ages better than this relationship. Just facts. She responded with a single-line email, "Received." No apology, no counter, nothing. A vacuum seal over a 4-year story. It sucked, but it was clean. Around then, Hannah sent me a screenshot. Zach had covered his "Stay True" tattoo with a black rectangle. "Symbolism," she wrote. I replied with a crying laugh emoji because sometimes emojis are the only language left. She and I didn't become best friends. That would be its own brand of trauma bonding. But we did exchange the occasional meme about red flags disguised as motivational quotes. Weeks passed. The DoorDash incident became a funny icebreaker at parties. Ever been cheated on? Let me tell you about customer support. Which is dark humor, but humor nonetheless. I started running again, partly to tire myself out so sleep wouldn't feel like a courtroom. Pepper adjusted. Her food bowl was never late again. Alison closed my file with a neat email. "All matters settled. Wishing you a drama-free Q4. Nate dragged me to a co-ed kickball league where every guy seemed named Tyler and every girl wore a scrunchie ironically. I flirted once, then panicked and cited DoorDash in conversation. Probably not the smoothest move. But baby steps. I still keep the photo, the original, with its brutal clarity, backed up in that folder, not to torture myself, but as a reminder that truth can arrive in the most mundane package. A push notification at 7:42 p.m. When Pepper stares at the kitchen doorway like she expects someone, I tell her the only deliveries coming through that door now are for us, from me, and maybe the occasional casserole from a mother who thought backsplash talk was going to be the hardest part of her Saturday. And every time DoorDash pings my phone now, I tip extra and double-check the background. But mostly, I smile. Technology didn't save the relationship, but it saved me months. maybe years, of living in a lie I wouldn't have spotted alone. 2 months later, the photo sits in a folder called Receipts. I only open when my brain tries to repaint the past in pastel. Most mornings, I don't need it. I feed Pepper, lace up, jog past the sushi place from that night, and it's just a storefront again. The lease is in my name, the guest key log is a perfect blank, and the Ring app shows nothing but me lugging groceries. Wednesdays are therapy. Dr. Patel keeps LaCroix cold and the room warm. She asks where anger lives until I stop answering in the screenshots. And admit it, rides my shoulders like a backpack I never packed. We talk boundaries, how evidence can't be my whole identity, how trusting new people isn't the same as handing them my passwords. Little by little, I start grading folks on behavior, not the shadow of an EXIF tag. One Saturday, Nate and I were wrestling a Facebook Marketplace dresser upstairs when a Prius rolled up. Baseball cap, familiar grin. Yo, Jake, Dashcam Dan. He laughed that my saga made corporate rewrite the photo policy. I told him I was honored to improve SOPs and bought his coffee. He double-checks frames now. I still tip 25% and scan backgrounds out of habit. We shook like two veterans of a very stupid war. Emily's last swing was a handwritten letter slid under my door, ink blurred where tears hit. Half apology, half manifesto about loneliness and dopamine. I read it once, felt the old tug, then slipped it into the manila envelope with vet bills and handed it to Alison. Closure didn't need a reply, it needed a timestamp. Hannah pinged me a pic, Zach's Stay True tattoo covered by a black bar. Minimalism, she wrote. We fired off one final meme about red flags disguised as motivational quotes and let the thread die. Co-survivors, not co-stars. The only relationship I kept from that mess purrs and hates closed doors. By fall, the apartment smelled like coffee grounds, sawdust from the bookshelf I built, and Pepper's salmon kibble. No perfume ghosts. I hosted game nights, wore a literal red flag for Halloween, kissed someone in a kitchen that didn't lie, and, huge milestone, let a delivery notification buzz without my pulse spiking. Groceries arrived. The background was just tile. Gary and Linda mailed a Christmas card addressed to me and Pepper. No Emily. Quiet statement in 5x7 cardstock. I sent back Pepper in a Santa hat and thanks for the casserole. Gary replied with a thumbs-up emoji. Modern men process feelings in icons, I guess. New Year's Eve, fireworks ricocheting off glass towers. I thought about that first ping. The courier selfie that blew a hole in my floorboards and let the truth crawl out. I raised a glass anyway, to metadata, to reps who escalate at 11 p.m., to cats who pick the honest human, to the version of me that chose facts over excuses and then chose healing over facts. Midnight rolled in. No geotags, no push alerts, just Pepper headbutting my shin and the clean click of a lock that only opens from the inside now.